Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Will Wilson in today, a special partner riding the show along with me and Will. We say hi to the pride of Fairbury, rocking the Fairbury red and gold. It is Bill Doleman for 2 hours. This is not a hostage situation. If you're watching on ESPN Lincoln's Twitter feed or Facebook, he's just in his living room. Bill, wave to the people. Make sure there's everyone's okay. There's no need to be concerned. You're willingly doing this for the next 2 hours. Good to. We always talk on Fridays unless I'm pulling a Johnny Carson and off watching Junior play baseball. But this is going to be a lot of fun, fellas. Will, you got your Big 8 gear going. I am gearing up for maybe a little sleep tonight. We had baseball at Millard North and then Scott first, then Millard North. But long and short, the boys battled hard, lost heartbreak fashion, bottom of the seventh, and fell at Millard North. Great ball game between the two squads, and we got home at midnight. I can't do that anymore. That used to be a normal Thursday. If you let Bill Doleman get loose on me a little bit, but. Fun show planned. We will talk legacy and lasting moments from those in rarefied air in the sports world. That's obviously triggered by Tiger and the Open today, that final walk-up 18. Jacob Padilla from Hail Varsity going to join us, get his take on some Husker football, as lots of news and notes from Travis Fisher. Also some thoughts on the NBA and the high school ranks with Jacob Padilla from a basketball standpoint. Dear friend of Bill Doleman's and one of the best there is with ESPN college football. Kelly Stouffer, pride of Rushville, will be with us in the 5 o'clock hour. And then a dear friend and tremendous golf mind. He's our PGA insider, recruiter and coach of Zach Johnson. Chris Elgert going to join us to talk the Open and what he has been able to garner from Tiger and what happened today as Tiger Woods misses the cut. Numbers to dive in can dial us up at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865, where you hear us around the great state of Nebraska. Can email chris@hailvarsity.com and tweet at us if you like, at Bill Doleman, at Willie on the radio for Will Wilson, at Schmidt_radio for me, Chris Schmidt. And you can interact via Twitter or Facebook, the StreamYard with ESPN Lincoln. Bill and Will, kind of a weird Friday with the Open going on. We all enjoy golf, some of us, and I'm looking at Will Wilson, are better at it than others. And just kind of a surreal moment, that what if it is it for Tiger Woods in major competition? What is it if it's it for Tiger Woods as we know him? Is that the lasting image you want of Tiger, him tipping his cap, walking off, being saluted by his peers? That's really cool. The downside is Father Time and just physically his inability to be what he once was due to the accident he suffered. And I look at it this way, Bill, and Will, get you guys' take on this. It's flat out remarkable for him in this window to go give it what he's given it. With the two previous majors, as hilly as those regions are, Augusta and, of course, the U.S. Open, this at St. Andrews is supposed to be a little more manageable because it's not as hilly. I guess I've never been, but he just didn't have it. It started off wrong, and he kept battling, and it would have been easy for him to not put himself out there. Now, personally, as competitive as he is and guys at that level are, he wants to go out and perform and dominate. You just don't know if he's going to be able to do it ever again. For him to have another green jacket back in 2019 at his age, despite his injury history, and then the off the course stuff, that was a really cool comeback story. But Bill and Will, this I'm gonna choose to look at that image where he's walking across the bridge, cap in hand, and then the tears streaming down his cheeks as he's going up 18, as a not a sad moment of, man, he missed the cut. It's, wow, he put himself out there and tried to grind and see the weekend. It just wasn't in the cards.
Well, the way I look at this, and I tend to look at things through a little different prism than most people, and of course I'm usually right in the way I view it. I think that this is another opportunity for Tiger Woods to save golf, because all that is going on with the LIV Tour, the controversy over the past, really 2 months that this has been percolating and now boiling over, golf needed the British Open, the Open Championship. It needed it, and it happened to be at St. Andrews, a milestone 150th anniversary. So on one of golf's grandest stages, one of its greatest tournaments in history, and Tiger is back, not playing like Tiger did. But for Tiger to have the moments that he had leading up to it, I mean, there was a lot of chronicling of Tiger Woods arriving in Europe, in Scotland, and getting off the helicopter and walking around and walking the course. There was a lot of Tiger Woods over the past 2 weeks in Europe, right? And that seemed to temper the controversy with the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour. And I think golf needed that. Golf needed Tiger Woods, whether he was great or not, to have the presence that he had leading up to teeing off on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And then to have the pictures with Jack, on the bridge and walking the course and on the range, all of those, that seemed to me, once again, to temper all of the controversy, because the golf world could focus on Tiger Woods. Even the moment, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, when John Daly, being John Daly, walks up to Tiger and puts
his smoky treat out first and then hugs him. Yeah.
I mean, there's just something so, it was so endearing about seeing John Daly, who I'm sure reveres Tiger Woods, but still, I think we all know John Daly is that guy who doesn't mind throwing in a heater, at the most hallowed grounds in golf, with probably, like you, a Boda bag, filled with an old fashioned, right? I'm sure you're probably withdrawal right now, not having a Boda bag with old fashions at Sherman Field. But
listen. Summer drinks are vodka lemonade. Let's get it right if we're going to paint a picture of me. This is coffee for our viewers, all right? It's not Jack coffee, it's coffee, yeah.
Mine too, bro.
It's the Ed McMahon cup here.
But you see what I'm saying? There have been so many important moments over the last 2 weeks that Tiger Woods has been able to be, as he was during the height of his career, bigger than the game. Mm-hmm. Very few athletes have ever been bigger than their game, even though they may say they're not, and never were, they respect the game. Michael Jordan was bigger than basketball. Michael Jordan, the Bulls were bigger than basketball. Tiger Woods was bigger than the game of golf. There are probably a few other athletes that you could, Usain Bolt was bigger than the whole, world track, deal. But I think Tiger Woods, at least for the time being, is saving golf from itself, because I do not believe the PGA Tour is innocent in all this. I think Phil Mickelson and Greg Norman exposed a lot, especially when you see the money that's now flowing back into the PGA Tour. It's like, where did that money come from? And that's what those guys are talking about. But then you have this, bad PR, Saudi-backed tour where all these guys are, and all of this, and you've got, what's his name, Martin Blum. Can't remember the guy who's in charge of the Royal St. Andrews and the Royal Golf Association. But anyway, those moments with Tiger on the course, walking up 18 today, the tears, the emotion from Tiger for really the first time ever, like that raw, that's going to be the lasting image of at least this week in golf. And Tiger was able to orchestrate that, even though he didn't make the cut, isn't going to win. It was still, a great moment for the sport and for sport that Tiger was able to do that.
Center focus back on the PGA. Will, you grew up in a golf family, man. What's your takeaway? We'll hear from Tiger here in a moment, but is it the championships that image burnt into your mind, the lasting image, or is it today where he may have been saying farewell?
Obviously, the Masters win, in 2019 was incredible. I remember being a kid and talking to my grandpa, who's a big golfer, and I remember asking him, who's the best golfer in the world? And he said, no question, it's Tiger Woods. And, I mean, he held that for so long. I just think it's really cool to see him still out playing after everything he's gone through. And I'm taking it all in because it could be very soon where we don't see him as much as we are right now. And I think everybody needs to watch Tiger Woods at least once.
He was incredible. This was Tiger with the PGA media after his final 18 today, missing the cut. It's a little longer snippet, about a minute here, but it's well worth the listen as he reflected on the moments and even a little bit of that final walk mixed in here.
Again, anytime you get the chance to come back and play the old course in the Open, it's just special. It really is. And as I said to Tim, I've been lucky enough to have been doing this since 1995, and I don't know if I'll be physically able to play another British Open here at St. Andrews. I certainly feel like I'll be able to play more British Opens, but I don't know if I'll be around, when it comes back around here. So the warmth and the ovation at 18, it got to me. And just to walk, I felt the guys stop there off the tee on 18, and it was just incredible. This amount of understanding and respect from all the people that are involved in this event that come out and support it, the players. The nods I was getting as the players were going out. I looked over there, and Rory gave me a tip of the cap. JT did the same. There's something to it that's just different.
Tiger Woods. We'll bring this back to Nebraska football, Bill, with knowing when to walk away and knowing when to give it one more shot or keep going. And you were a big part of that 97 season with Coach Osborne when he decided to step away. We know that Coach had made a promise to Coach Solich and kept his word, which is remarkable, but not common. And you lived that. I think of T.O., I think of Peyton Manning in the NFL, I think of Larry Bird after he won gold, and I think of Kobe Bryant, kind of four that got it right. I choose to have my image of Jordan against Derek Russell versus Jordan wearing Bullets gear. Okay. I tend to think of Bob Knight screaming in Hoosier Crimson versus Texas Tech sweaters. And then boxing being in my family with my Uncle Morris and as close as he was to Muhammad Ali, I think of the 70s version of Muhammad Ali versus Muhammad Ali's last couple of fights where he got rocked. So it's interesting, but just that whole year with T.O. here, got a couple of minutes this segment, but T.O. no win to get out.
Well, when Tom made that announcement, I think it shocked everybody. I'm sure there were a few people that knew, obviously Frank and Tom's family, but when that announcement was made, that was a shocker. When you look back on it, you think, yeah, you went out on the highest possible note that you can, although there was still a game to play, so we didn't know that you're going to go out and win a national championship, although we were pretty sure that group of guys was not going to lose that night to Tennessee, and they did not. So, Tom got to go out on the highest note. Now, I've told you many times, had I been the athletic director, Tom would still be the head football coach at Nebraska. We would not have gone through the last 25 years or whatever it's been, and he would be making well over the $125,000 a year that he was making back in the mid-1990s. But nevertheless, he did get a chance to go out on top, and people think, man, that's a pretty good place to have your lasting legacy. There are others that have walked away maybe at the height of their career. Sandy Koufax, if you want to go back in time in baseball, retired at 31 or 32 and remains one of the great pitchers of all time, and won 170 games in his career. Barry Sanders just got tired of playing for losing teams in Detroit and said, I'm out. And, nobody faulted him for that because those teams were so bad, but that's another one. But you're right, there's so many boxers that sadly stick around because unfortunately that may be the only life that they know. And you can think Ali, Roberto Duran, some guys like that just hung on too long. Marvin Hagler walked away because he felt, as though he was being disrespected. I'm out. And, he's probably one of the greatest of all time. But then you have some that hang on to Eddie Sutton, finishing up at San Francisco, coaching basketball. I mean, it was great to see him get, what was that, his milestone 800th win or something like that. That was tough for those of us who saw his great years at Oklahoma State. Andre the Giant probably stuck around too long, but he ushered in the Hulk Hogan era by, doing WrestleMania.
But by letting him get body slammed and not chuck him into the third row. Bill Doleman, Chris Schmidt, Will Wilson. We'll check in with Jacob Padilla. We'll dive into that Husker secondary, some of Travis Fisher's comments. Hail Varsity with you on a Friday, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Storm Chasers fans, suit up. My spidey senses are tingling. July 22nd is Marvel Night. While the ball players are wearing Black Panther jerseys, you too can be repping your favorite Avenger. My all-time favorite is Iron Man. Outside of the fact that he's downright awesome, his wit and sarcastic nature is similar to mine. So essentially, I am Iron Man. Thor will also make an appearance that night. When you say hi to him, make sure to say, "Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?" He loves that. Come be a superhero and watch the Storm Chasers take on the Iowa Cubs. Get your tickets now.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Thanks for spending time on a Friday at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Will Wilson in for Elijah Herbal today. Bill Doleman hanging out the next hour and a half, unless he just wanders off. We welcome in Jacob Padilla from HailVarsity.com and magazine. Reminder, we're on the road tomorrow for the weekend edition, 7 to 9 out at Woodland Hills. Tyson's Treasure Chest, Tee Off for Treasures, a wonderful foundation to help fight pediatric brain cancer with Jeremiah Searles and company. So we're going to be out on the back deck, weather permitting, tomorrow. For Tyson's Treasure Chest, Tee Off for Treasures. Excited to be back a part of that. Jacob, what's the good word? Is that a Suns shirt you've got on?
Indeed it is. Got the Summer Suns playing today.
That is good. Are you excited that your Suns have decided to keep DeAndre Ayton at the man in the paint and maybe not go after KD? Let's start with NBA real quick.
Yeah, well, they couldn't let him go for nothing.
Right.
So, I got their hesitancy about offering the 5-year designated rookie extension last year, and so this whole I guess process has kind of been bizarre and a little awkward, and especially the way kind of the end of the season, that Game 7 and the press conference afterward, you didn't know was he really going to be back? Was there going to be a sign and trade? But ultimately, they couldn't replace him. They couldn't upgrade at that position. They couldn't make a move to put themselves in as good or better position to challenge without him. So they brought him back, and we'll see what else they can do to kind of try to gear up to make another championship. But it was pretty much once he signed that deal, they had no choice. They had to match it. They couldn't let him go.
Is he going to make as much money with the Suns as Sean Miller paid him at Arizona?
Wow.
A good question.
That's a no comment.
This is the second contract that he is going for, so I do think he got a raise. The rookie deal was probably more comparable.
Jacob, I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. Armand Gates heading off to Oregon. Surprised by that move. I know I'm a week late on it, but I haven't talked to you, like I said. Your take on that? I know Dana's happy to have him.
I guess just the timing, how late it happened it kind of seemed like, I think you thought he was kind of on the, all right, look out what's going to happen with him this offseason, just based on how things have gone. And he was the one guy that didn't have a pre-existing relationship with Fred Hoiberg. He decided to keep him on staff, hold over from Tim Miles' staff. So you kind of wonder, especially when his brother got a new job, you wondered would he join that staff. But oddly enough, what triggered this process was Omaha parting ways with Darren Hansen and hiring Chris Crutchfield, which created the opening on Dana Altman's staff that ended up being filled by Armand Gates. So it's kind of a Nebraska university system. One's benefiting and others took a loss from it. But so I not terribly surprised. Again, the timing is a little difficult because, I mean, everybody's most of the way through their summer workouts right now. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Fred Hoiberg had to put together a list of candidates to look at because he just hired a new assistant in Adam Howard. So he at least has done some homework looking around at potential his assistant hire coaches. So he's not starting from scratch. And Dana did keep him in the loop, apparently, like as he was going through his process, let him know, hey, we're looking at Armand here. So he wasn't completely caught off guard when Armand decided to make that move and he left. So I think he said when we spoke with him earlier this week that he's not looking to rush it. I think at this point he's fine kind of closing out this last couple weeks of their summer session. And then they've got a break after that. The players are going to go home and kind of relax a little bit before they come back to campus to get ready for the semester. So I think that's probably the window where he's looking to really get this finalized, figure out, all right, who's going to fill that spot? Let's get him in here. Let's get him acclimated. And then once the players get back to campus, then they can start building those relationships and incorporating them that way. So, it's going to be difficult at this point, but Fred, like I said, already has a list, I'm sure, to work off of, and he's continuing to add to that and considering, all right, who would be a good fit for what we need now, considering what our staff looks like right now with the changes they've already made. So we'll have to see kind of how that plays out and who Hoiberg is able to land here to round out his staff.
Last basketball thought, your take on what McGowan's is doing for Charlotte so far this summer.
Yeah, it's certainly been up and down. It's kind of one good performance, one bad performance. He had a pretty good debut. I think he scored 21 in that first game. Then followed it up with a 2 for 14 shooting performance. Then game 3, scored 24, was 5 of 6 from 3, 7 of 10 overall. So the shot was looking good, had that kind of between the legs step back. He hit, I think, 3 of those in the game. That's clearly a shot that he's comfortable with, that he works on a lot on his own in between games and all that. So, and then kind of on the back-to-back, the shot just wouldn't go down from him yesterday. So I think he's shown – basically, I don't know that what he's shown in the summer league so far should be any surprise. I think it's about what I'd expect. You certainly see the highs and what he's capable of as a scorer, the different ways that he's able to get downhill, be crafty around the basket, shoot the ball off the dribble. But then you've also seen the games where he hasn't been able to finish through any kind of contact at the rim, where the jumper's not falling, I thought he was making some good plays for his teammates, even though the shot wasn't falling in that game yesterday. He had some really good passes that maybe the shot didn't go down, so didn't end up in the stat sheet as an assist. But I thought he made some good reads. So that's probably something that I think Charlotte would like to see, to see him continue to find ways to make an impact, whether the shot's falling or not. But overall, I think it's about what I would have expected from him. Not great, not terrible, showing both his upside and what he has to work on.
Jacob, I want to steer you back to the Huskers real quick. And we talked last week, and I wasn't surprised by Armand taking the opportunity to go win a Mountain West title, which is going to be a lot easier than winning the Big Ten. So that's why you go to Oregon. But anyway, he's got head coaching material all over. But with Nebraska, you look at that roster, and there are 9-10 new guys, and chemistry's got to be a question mark. And now you're talking about going into the coaching transfer portal to bring somebody in this late in the summer. How does Fred Hoiberg, who's a very calm guy, never too high, never too low, so I'm sure he has a plan, but looking at this team, how in the world do they develop any semblance of chemistry when you've got Derek Walker coming back, who could be one of the better big men of the Big Ten, I think, next year? But how does Nebraska develop any chemistry going into the season without having it be a work in progress beginning in mid-November when they actually hit the court together?
And that certainly is a challenge they're going to have to work through. And that's part of why the timing is so difficult with the coaching change. And Armand was a guy that was really liked in that program. He connected well with the players. He was a constant positive, he brought positivity to their gym. Presence is the word I was trying to think of. But he's just always kind of uplifting, always bringing the energy. He was active in their workouts and all that stuff. So they talked about there was kind of an emotional meeting when he let them know that he was moving on, just because he's a guy that'd been there. He'd been there longer than anybody else in the program. Again, the one holdover. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they do incorporate the new guy, what his fit is, kind of what his role will be early on, who they find to fill that position. But you mentioned Derek Walker, and I think that is a big key to have a guy like him back. And they've added some veterans like Sam Griesel and Emmanuel Bandamel, guys that have been around college basketball a long time. A guy like Griesel, who is very invested in doing everything he can to make this thing work and to help this program, to help this community. I mean, every offseason you talk about the chemistry is great, all this type of stuff, but we're hearing that again. But there's also specific things like you hear, like Derek Walker talking about, like not saying that it was bad before, but like there were times last year where I felt I was the only one talking. And this year he hears other voices when he's speaking up in practice. And you hear guards that are stepping up and talking to the younger guards, a guy like Bandamel or Griesel, and whereas it's not bad to have like a big guy like Walker, like talking and correcting a younger guard, but it just means that much more when it's a guy at his own position that has played that offers that kind of insight. So that's what we're hearing right now, that at least the communication is good. The guys are connecting. You notice that I think if you pay attention to their social presence at all, these guys are doing a lot more like team activities out in the community, whether it's camps, whether it's just kind of being present in the community, doing kind of charity work. You're seeing these guys out there together like every week. I think there's something new where there's a chance for these guys to go connect off the court, to go do some good in the community. And I think they're hoping that all of that will kind of build up to, once we get onto the court in the fall, that they'll already have good connections. And we'll be able to kind of build off of that and build that on-court chemistry. And having the core pieces, Derek Walker back, CJ Wilcher back, Wilhelm Breidenbach just started doing contact work. He just got cleared to get back out there and actually go 5-on-5, and apparently had a dunk in their live work that fired up the team a little bit. That it was really cool for them to just see him out there after everything he's gone through. So they've got some new pieces to incorporate, but it is easier, I think, some of those pieces being veterans that have come from winning programs. Emmanuel Bandamel played at an SMU team that has had some success over the last couple of years. That was a really good defensive team, and that's where I think they're really going to rely on him as a guy that knows how to fit into top 60 defense in the country. Sam Griesel was part of the best defensive team in the Summit League, and a team that was right up there competing for a conference title with South Dakota State the last few years. He's played in the NCAA tournament. So I think all of those factors are hoping will make it easier for these guys to come together once they get to the actual season. And Fred's talked about that. Like he's excited to have guys that have won at multiple levels. Even some of the high school guys that got coming in are guys that won championships in high school, that have been part of winning cultures. And he's hoping bringing all that together will allow them to kind of click and find ways to make the winning plays that this program, the players in this program just haven't made the last few years.
Jacob Padilla with us all over the hardwood. as we're talking some basketball, NBA, and Husker basketball at Jacob Padilla _ Jacob, we'll catch up with you next week, bud, gearing up towards Indy and Media Days, and lots to talk about with Husker football. We'll get there next time. Thanks for the time, and keep rocking that Suns gear, all right?
All right, will do.
Thanks. Good to see Jacob again. Appreciate him. Hail Varsity continues. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Calling all soccer fans. Union Omaha is back home after an unbelievable showing in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 16. An upset over Minnesota United? That's our team. So join them when they come home May 28th for Educational Outreach Night, presented by Bellevue University. The Owls will face Northern Colorado Hailstorm FC, and after a couple of road matches, will come back on June 18th to face Greenville Triumph SC. It's also Pride Night. We'll see you there.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Jacob Padilla. Our interviews posted ESPNLincoln.com. The on-demand section. We are streaming live, so feel free to interact on Twitter at ESPN Lincoln. Twitter, watch us. I look all right. Doleman's Doleman, and then Willie J's rocking the tribute to the Big Eight. Also, Facebook Live at ESPN Lincoln. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Those are the numbers. Welcome to join. We'll hit some Husker football to wrap this hour. Open phone still 5. ESPN college football analyst Kelly Stouffer coming up shortly after 5. PGA insider Chris Elgert going to join us at 5:25. Get his take on what could be Tiger's final act. Well, he thinks for sure well, not for sure, but he thinks the Royal and Ancient, but what's the future look like for Tiger? We'll have Mr. Elgert get his crystal ball out as well. He knows the personalities and the insides and outs of pro golf. You can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. So when we talk position groups, Bill and Will, where does the secondary rank for you guys as concern or comfort? And I ask this because we're on the heels of the network having kind of their rundown through position breakdowns with position coaches, and I always love listening to Coach Travis Fisher, and when it's kind of a round table, just kind of cozying up as close as I can get. It's usually pretty crowded, and just soaking in his knowledge and his honesty about what he expects from his guys and what he demands. And if you look at consistency, Nebraska's arguably most consistent part of their football team has been the secondary. And you've seen guys go on beyond Nebraska. You've seen a guy that at one point was immature that's still in the league, in a Lamar Jackson. You saw Cam Taylor-Britt get picked as high as he did, and you saw him as a converted quarterback that Coach Chins loved down in Alabama, get brought in and play some safety and then do his thing at corner, right? You have Deontay Williams that is a guy that's in the Seattle system, a prospect that Pete Carroll really likes and has a chance to stick and stay. And then you saw the secondaries do some work down at Central Florida. So Coach Fisher's got a really good eye for talent, but he's got a real demand for development. Just some news and notes. Omar Brown, the Northern Iowa transfer, has been working at safety. You've got a tight race because you've got two safeties in Dismuke and Deontay. You got to replace those guys on the back end. Miles Farmer has, when he's played, he's been in the right spot, and he's got a pretty good interception to start ratio in his career at Nebraska. He's had an interception or two. I think back to that Northwestern game where he came in and had to start due to a targeting penalty. You have Marquise Buford that's doing well. And then the newcomer, Desean Singleton. And this is where Coach Fisher decided to spend a few minutes on the young pup. Singleton is somebody that, has come in and could contribute real early and maybe do more than just contribute.
I think the thing with the secondary, it reminds me of what I thought about the offensive line, that you've got to have depth and you've got to have, guys who can step in and not just be a body, but to be somebody who would be a second number 2 on a depth chart who could be a starter. And I think that he has probably developed that group better than anybody. I shouldn't say better than anybody. He's been the coach, but I think that group has probably had more playable depth the last couple of years.
Good take.
But I think that this might be, gosh, I hate to say on paper, the most athletic secondary I think that we have seen in decades. And I think the depth is there. The competition for playing time is going to be much greater. I think practices are going to be incredibly spirited. And if you're going to play, against some teams that like to throw the football around, and you've got some depth, then I think Nebraska's in a pretty good situation. That's like the one area on the field where you really don't worry about it all that much, because you think that's a pretty good group, even though you got some newcomers. But that just seems to be one where starter and second teamers might be fairly interchangeable, provided you can stay healthy. I'd love to see Javen Wright, just because I remember Dad.
Toby was incredible.
I'd love to see I'd love to see Javen Wright be healthy and be the kind of player that everybody hoped he was going to be when he was recruited and signed, and he was going to be the legacy to come home, and that has not worked out. But I think that'd be a really fun addition. But that's one, when you look at this team, you go, I think they're actually pretty solid back there. It's not a huge concern.
Well, and guys, think of the ask right now. Think of what you're trying to reload with. You've got to find a corner that was as good, and the second half of his season was phenomenal in Cam Taylor-Britt. And how good was JoJo Doman? I mean, JoJo Doman was incredible. Was incredible against the run, was great at setting the edge, was good for a TFL when you needed it. His swan song was that Ohio State game, and he was so incredible, and it stinks you can't have him more, but you had him 6 years. I like how Fisher, and he's so direct with his guys, so he's not going on the radio and putting anybody on blast unannounced, but there is a higher ceiling for Farmer, and he's had the most playing time, and he's a big kid. Farmer's a big kid, and he laid it out there last night. He has the knowledge, and he has that edge over some of the younger pups, but because you have that knowledge, he needs to be and play faster. And that's one thing that I think, I don't know if you've noticed, Will, in the spring game or in some of the ball games, when we look at tackling angles or coming up against the run and some run support, Farmer's a big body. He's a tough dude. And when he gets there, he'll make an impact. He'll make a tackle. But there's been some times where it's not that he's gotten worse at tackling. I'm not calling him out like that, but he needs to be as good as he was early on, if that makes sense. It seems like he's more of a sure tackler, Bill, early in his career. But that competition is going to force that cream to go to the top with either you seize this gig and you fend off all comers, or we have other options at that safety spot. And Fish, I mean, he cross-trained. You're going to play corner, you're going to play safety, and you're going to be physical. I don't know what nickel will look like. I know Isaac Gifford's a hell of a good football player, and he has a lot of talent, and he's a smart kid, great family. So Fish likes his maturity with that talent. Chris Kolarovic, he's working. He's a smart football player. And while he may not have some of those physical gifts, his football IQ allows him to play a little bit faster. So those are the couple of options. We'll get a comment from Coach Fisher here before we say goodbye this first hour. Winding down 4 o'clock here on Hail Varsity. Kelly Stouffer, 15 minutes away. Hail Varsity were presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Bill Doleman in for another hour unless he runs away. Will Wilson's, well, he can't go anywhere. Chris Schmidt, good to spend time with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Talking about position groups you feel best about, even though you lost 75% of a lot of career starts. Travis Fisher and his secondary look to be ready to rock and roll here for 2022. We'll dive a little deeper into the outlook for 2022. Bill, have a thought on that next hour. Kelly Stouffer. Kelly's seen quite a few Nebraska games over the last few years. We were fortunate enough to catch up with him at Minnesota last year. I know he's done a number of Nebraska games over the years, and he even had the call a few years back in Ireland, pre-pandemic, where he was over there with part of the ESPN crew. So I'm anxious to get his take on that, just from a distraction standpoint. I know I'll be finding my way to Guinness, but I can. I've got a couple shows to deal with, and then go cover the game. Let's hear from Travis Fisher on Desean Neal right now, and just what that prospect's been doing here, and how spring went, and what kind of springboard that can be.
Man, it was huge to be able to bring Desean here because give me so much flexibility and depth in the safety, and then also give me a big safety that can run and cover. So a lot of people, I don't know if you're aware of, but the kid played corner. Played a lot of corner in junior college. So he played a lot of corner and he played a lot of safety. So being able to get a guy like him, and then this spring, I think he was starting off slow like he should because he's learning the safety. The quarterback of the defense got a lot to know. They got a ton of stuff, and it's not going to be you jump right in here and know it. But he works extremely hard in that spring game, man. I was so proud of him in that spring game. He looked like a day one guy playing the position in that spring game. So he did some really nice things in the spring game. I wished after the spring game, I was saying to myself driving back home, I said, man, I wish we can just re-up another 15 more because this kid here, he was starting to cross that path where he can easily start here.
Every defensive coordinator and staff guys strive to have the matchup advantage, and forever the offense knows where the ball's going, and you have a guy like Percy Harvin that was a hybrid, right? Just one that's kind of recent memory, where you can hand him the ball, you can throw him the ball, he can kill you on a return, and that's that. Well, defenses have tried to get that hybrid type guy. You think of JoJo, you think of a guy that like Desean that can play corner, but man, he's going to give you size and athleticism. Now you can dictate or not panic, really, Bill. If you get the right dudes in and they know their jobs, you can dictate the matchups and take away that tight end, take away that slot, take away that running back out of the backfield. I mean, think how many years and how many times offenses have gone to work on opposing defenses because of that matchup issue.
Well, boy, you go back to the, decades ago in football, and you have a cornerback on one receiver and a cornerback on the other side of the field, and two safeties are back, and that's just the way it was. But now you've got players that are kind of positioned all over the place in certain sets defensively. And again, if you have the depth where your second, unit has the capability of starting or being a starter in a certain package, and they know when they come to practice on Monday or Tuesday that if they work hard through the week, they're going to get their reps. They're going to get a chance to play. That's what's significant. So I think that's what's great for Nebraska and Travis Fisher is that they have playable depth this year.
Good stuff. Hour 2 is on the way. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Bill Doleman in today, and Will Wilson sitting in. Big thanks to Will for his time. We say hi to ESPN college football analyst Kelly Stouffer with us, and Pride of Rushville, Nebraska. Kelly, thanks for a few minutes. Appreciate you jumping on. How are you?
I'm doing fine, guys. It's good to catch up with you. How is everyone at the eastern end of the state?
Well, it's about 1,000 degrees and a heat advisory of 106. What's the temp your neck of the woods?
Very similar, as a matter of fact. So I'm in where it's so air conditioned that I'm thinking about putting on a light jacket. But yeah, it's that time of the year.
2 a day time, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's warm outside, but the air's feeling good in the year. Kelly, I want to pick your brain on some college football, broad topics, and also some local concerns or questions. We'll start with Nebraska first. And you've had a chance with your work as an analyst at ESPN to see Nebraska several times, and we're already into year 5 in the Scott Frost era. Lots of pressure, lots of tension mounting for this upcoming season. And I'd like to get your take here. As you've seen Nebraska, what's your impression of the program right now as we head into year 5, and just overall, what do you think? What do you think the program can be in a 5th year under Scott?
You know, I met with you guys last year a couple of times when I had Nebraska, and it was this really, really strange paradigm where I don't know that I've ever really seen anything like what Nebraska has been the last couple of years, especially last year when they just couldn't find a way to win winnable football games. And it was really strange that, percentage-wise, at some point in time, those begin to trend your direction, and they just haven't yet for Nebraska and Scott Frost. So, just from that standpoint, I would think Nebraska is one of those teams that could surprise people, that kind of come out of nowhere to some extent, and just simply by winning, your fair share of games like that. And so, I believe in Scott Frost. I believe in, kind of what he does and what he stands for, and I know he knows the game. I know he keeps people around him that know the game. I think they, from all intents and purposes, seem to be recruiting, recruiting in a way that will allow them to compete. All of those things pointing the right direction. And so, I think you start there.
Kelly, how much does the freshness of Thompson now being at quarterback, or you got, quality backup with Purdy, Logan's brothers having been around, but let's just focus on, if it is Casey Thompson, just how much that can help Nebraska moving on from Adrian Martinez, who said at Big 12 Media Days the other day, look, it did run its course at Nebraska. I did all I could do. He was very cordial, I guess, in his comments. But just the freshness at QB with an experienced guy like that.
I think that is a good point, Bill, and I think that is a good place to start. I quite frankly was a Taylor Martinez fan. I kept waiting for that moment when he turned the corner and really started to walk in all of the talent that I believe he truly has, skill set wise, at that position. But the reality is, it just did not happen. And you really got both ends of the spectrum. And we talked about this at length during the couple of games that we had, Nebraska last season. And he, I guess the word is enigma for me, because you had talent that you obviously see why he's the quarterback, but yet literally the next breath he may make a play that you just wonder where it came from. And I know we were in Lincoln for the Purdue game, and looking back on this, it was somewhat hilarious for us, but not maybe for Nebraska fans. But we were doing a segment in game about a comment that Scott Frost made that really Taylor Martinez is Scott Frost in a lot of ways without that moment that kind of gets you over the hump to become a championship quarterback. And his career really lacked nothing except for that moment. Well, we were doing that on the air. We were going to that package, and he throws a pick six against Purdue, like literally in mid-sentence. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what kind of highlighted, Taylor's career at Nebraska. And so I do think there's a point when you have to kind of turn the page. And I don't know how it actually played out, in the building, whether it was, a hug and a pat on the back and, hey, it's time to move along, or if Scott really did give Martinez the opportunity to come back again. You guys may know, the in-house conversations more than I'm privy to, but I think it's a good decision for both of them. I think Martinez at Kansas State with Coach Kleiman, it may be the change of scenery that he needs. And I do believe that Casey Thompson, if he's the guy, it's the same kind of thing for him. Coming from Texas, I think an opportunity to do something, in a different environment may give him a shot in the arm as well. And so I do believe it was to that point that something had to be done, and that's a good place to start. At this time of the year, when I'm kind of going through my due diligence and, kind of drilling down from the, in the top 25, the top 40, and then you get specifically into teams and then more specifically into or conferences and then more specifically into teams. I mean, that's where I began in analyzing teams. You start with, do they have a championship quarterback? And then can they compete on the line of scrimmage? Both sides. And then you move back and you move out from there. But if you can't answer question number one affirmatively, do you have a quarterback that can win? Then you have problems. Then you're always making up for other things. And so Nebraska has to answer that. I think a good place to start would be Taylor Martinez getting a new address, and that's happened. And now what? And, obviously it remains to be seen whether Casey is that guy or not.
Kelly Stouffer's with us, ESPN college football analyst, talking Nebraska outlook for 2022 with Adrian gone, and you have a new quarterback to pick from. That's a great starting point. What do you get out of quarterback play? Kelly, what do you know about Coach Whipple? Did you see Pitt much at all? And if not, no worries. But it's a new offense and a new offensive line coach, a new running backs coach. Mickey Joseph's the receivers coach. So there's a lot of new on the offensive side of the ball. And Scott is kind of handing those keys over to Whipple, who's coached Roethlisberger to a Super Bowl, and he's been around the college game quite a bit. Can it work this quickly in year one?
I think that's as big a question and maybe even bigger than who is your quarterback. I think there will be quarterback options that will work at Nebraska. Remains to be seen, obviously, who that will be. But Mark Whipple was an interesting choice as far as I'm concerned. I like what he did. I like his resume. We actually had Pitt in their bowl game, and it's a really a pro style type of presentation, much more than what you would have been seeing at Nebraska recently. And so, how does that work with where Scott was coming from schematically on the offensive side of the ball in his tenure at Nebraska up to this point? That was my first question is, how long? I mean, it can work because both men are, very talented. But that's the big question. How quickly can it work? And that's what Nebraska needs. They need it to work like yesterday.
Yeah.
They need it to work in Dublin, like right out of the gate. However, I would say this, being around coaches that are good at what they do, they're great coaches are really good at simply adapting to what you have to do in order to put your best players in position to be successful. And so that's why I think that, over the last few months that Coach Whipple and Scott Frost and this new offensive staff, by and large, they're not ignorant about how you win football games. And so you kind of put all your chips into the middle of the table and, you decide what your core values are going to be on the offensive side, what has to stay, what you have to have, what has to go. Some things that Scott would have probably liked may not be that prevalent anymore. And then some things that Coach Whipple wants to have or has to have, that has to win out because he's going to be the play caller. So, all of that is going to be, I think, really, really good theater in Lincoln. And hopefully for the faithful Nebraska fans, it comes together quickly and they win a lot of football games.
Kelly, we only have a couple of minutes here, so this is kind of tough to do a big picture question in just 2 or 3, but I know that you are involved in the high-level meetings with the Big Ten and the SEC and ESPN, putting everybody where they need to be.
Wow.
So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I've been in the middle of making those decisions, yes.
Well, of course, I said this is going to happen in 2004, so I'm pretty relaxed anyway, and I know you're on your ranch with a 6-pack of hams. But
yeah,
as we go into but specifically as we go into this college football season, Nebraska, as I said, is on the beach with a pina colada. They have a home, and they're going to be getting some big checks, and they know it. But if you're Clemson and Florida State and Miami and Oregon and Washington, you have to be going into this year and maybe the next year wondering, there's a lot of outside noise, and we don't know. Isn't that going to have an impact on on-field performance maybe this year and until things settle down?
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how it impacts things on the field. That's also the coach's responsibility to make sure all of that noise doesn't actually get to the product on the field. But as well as I do, this day and age, players are so aware of everything. The way that they communicate via social media stuff, you name what platform, which, when we were all, growing up and in the middle of this, we didn't have those things. If someone didn't find a way to get a hold of me via literally writing a letter or calling me on the phone, I didn't know anything about any of it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I don't really believe it's going to impact the product on the field a lot. But I think what it is going to impact is is the recruiting side of it, where players are kind of biding their time to kind of see what the next chess piece moves look like. Because, what conference do I want to play in? What's going to be my best situation? If I'm going to Clemson, does it really matter, or does it matter if I'm going to be playing in the ACC or maybe the SEC by the time I'm a sophomore in college? I think that's going to be some of the interesting fallout in all of this. But, we saw this coming, and you said 2004, and you may be earlier on it than I ever was, but the writing was on the wall for a significant amount of time, that there was going to be, chairs in the Titanic were going to be arranged multiple times before we finally settle into what the new paradigm in college football and college sports really as a whole is going to look like. You could really take a knife in Division I sports and cut it in half and say the top 64, you guys are going to be rearranged somehow. We don't know exactly how, but you're going to be rearranged and have 3 or 4 super conferences, and you're going to control all the television money, and God bless you. And then the rest, the bottom 64 in Division I, you got to find something else to do, because that's just the way that it's going to work. And I think we're in the midst of seeing that come out in a big way, and it's probably going to look significantly different here in a couple more months.
Kelly Stouffer with us. Kelly, about 10 seconds, bud. Who do you open with?
No idea yet. We haven't gotten our marching orders. I know I'm not going to be in Dublin with you guys. Other than that, I don't know what I'm going to be doing yet. I mean, ESPN hasn't released any of our stuff. We're getting word we're supposed to be hearing in the next few days, but to be determined.
Well, appreciate you making time as always, and great insight. We'll talk again soon, and have a great weekend, okay?
Yeah, thank you guys. You as well. Hope to see you in Lincoln somewhere in the fall.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Kelly Stouffer on Nebraska and the landscape of college football. Bill Doleman in today, Chris Schmidt, Will Wilson, and we welcome in PGA insider and teacher and recruiter Zach Johnson, and a guy we love to turn to talk some golf, Chris Elgert, with us at Chris Elgert on Twitter. Chris, good to spend some time with you today. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. How are you?
I'm doing great. Schmitty, how are you?
We are good, man, and you love the game of golf. You taught it, you coached it, you recruited it, you no doubt analyze it. What did Tiger's Walk do? Take us through what you were doing when the applause and the cap tips happened for one Mr. Woods.
Well, I was like everybody. I mean, I was up at 3:30 this morning to watch the start in hopes of him catching lightning in a bottle today and maybe doing something to get back, at least make the cut. But when that was pretty obvious that wasn't going to happen, then then we knew that it was going to be a unique walk. I don't think he's done. I really don't. And I think St. Andrews will acquiesce to him and move up their time frame to get it back in the next 5 or 6 years. They're only 3 years out right now, and I know Tiger in his press conference afterward talked about it coming back there in 8 years. But they did it for Jack. They moved it up for Jack when Jack said he wasn't going to play again after 2000, and so he could have one more walk in 2005. And honestly, I think they'll do the same for Tiger. I think if Tiger's still showing that he's going to try and compete at the major level, I could see the RNA wanting to move it up to St. Andrews to give him a final hurrah.
Chris, this is Bill Doleman. I mentioned earlier that, I thought Tiger Woods, for the time being, has kind of saved golf from itself with all the controversy with the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour and all that's going on, and seeing him, what he did the last 2 weeks leading up to this, the helicopter landing in Scotland and the high-fiving and the hug with John Daly, which was funny, and then the emotional pictures with Jack, and then the walk-up 18 today. It's so interesting to see where he was at the beginning of his career when he ignited golf, but now it seems as though he is, this is my opinion, saving it in another way. How meaningful is it to the game for him to be at least trying to do what he's doing at this stage of life and all that he's gone through?
Well, I mean, he's a medical marvel, and to be honest with you, he was before the wreck, and then what he's done since the wreck is even more incredible. To have as many back surgeries and knee surgeries and fusions, and I unfortunately suffer from some back issues similar. To have him be able to play before the accident was almost amazing, and for him to win the Masters in 2019 like he did is just, it's almost godlike. But for what he went through and the fact that he was almost, he was at a point where he could have lost that leg, and then for them to put him back together just so he could walk and live a somewhat normal life was incredible. And for him to be playing in major championships again is almost unbelievable. But what he's doing, it was 20, good 20 years of him being fairly guarded and answering things in a way that you never really got inside of the Tiger Woods circle. But with everything that he's faced, and I think being a parent has changed him just as much as the accidents and things. That it's wonderful to see him in a position where he feels that emotion. I don't think playing this event, walking down 18, missing a cut, if some of the things he hadn't experienced wouldn't have got to him like they did, and then for him to be as open as he can be about where the state of the game is and what's going on, in his opinion, then he carries a significant amount of weight because he's truly Jack and Arnie changed the game and made it the way it is, as far as television and big money. But Tiger Woods took that to another stratosphere, and he took it to a stratosphere globally that was that just quite honestly wasn't there. The game was, prior to Tiger Woods, was somewhat of an American game and a European game, and now with him it's a worldwide game. And at his prime, he was the most recognizable athlete in the world, and that just doesn't come along. That's generational stuff. Jack was obviously recognizable, but not at the level that Tiger Woods is globally.
We're talking to Chris Elgert, and Chris, I agree with you. I don't think Tiger is going to be done anytime soon. I mean, look at Tom Watson. He played in the Open until he was 65. He played in the Masters the last time when he was 66. So do you expect Tiger to play, all the way up until that age?
Yeah, I think, barring another setback or complications with the leg, I think we'll see him try to play major golf at least for the next, I would say, I don't think he'll play till he's 65. He just, Tom Watson was blessed with tremendous athleticism, and he didn't, face all of these injuries. But I could definitely see him playing until he's 55. But I also, one of the things about Tiger that's a little different, I don't think that he'll go out there just to be in a parade. I think he's going to have to get his game to a point where he feels like if he catches lightning in a bottle like Phil did at Kiowa last year or something along those lines, that he thinks he could possibly win the golf tournament, then I think you'll see him. And I am, based upon his performances this year, not this week, but this year, if he continues to get better and that leg gets stronger and he's able to practice a little bit more, then I think he'll feel like he could still compete and play into his mid-50s.
Chris Elgert with us, PGA Insider, Hail Varsity Radio. Chris, let's turn our attention to tomorrow or later today. You'll be putting the coffee on and watching the third round. Smith leads the way at -13. Rory's within striking distance. DJ at -9. Handicap it for us, Bud. Who do you like at the turn here?
Well, I mean, Cam Smith has pushed it out there far enough that, I think there's some great players, obviously, all the way through the field. But, I really think the winner's got to come from that top 11 players. I think you could go down to maybe 7, and that's probably a stretch. I mean, that's got Cantlay and Thigala and Scott and Gooch at 7 under. But, I'm just looking at the conditions. It's supposed to be relatively benign tomorrow. Their wind could come up, but they're only expecting winds between 10 and 15. And then, Sunday's supposed to be fairly mild with just light rains in the morning. So, based upon the weather forecast and the speed of the golf course already, it looks to me like the winner's going to be somewhere in that 18 to 20 under range. And, so when you look at where the field is now, that would take some monumental golf if you're 7 under par going into the weekend to try and get it, to try and play the weekend 11 to 12 under par. So, there's great players up and down the board. I mean, I don't think you could find a stronger leaderboard in golf. So I think it probably more than likely will come from that top 7, which would include Scheffler at 8 and Tyrrell Hatton at 8, DJ, Victor Hovland, Rory, Cameron Young, and Cameron Smith.
Chris, the Open has always been one of the great scenes in golf. If you go, way back when they used to allow maybe they will allow the crowds to file in behind the guys as they made their way up 18. It always seemed that you'd wake up on a Sunday and you'd see the gray and the blustery winds and, just a rough place to play. What are some of your favorite memories of the Open and watching it growing up to where we are now? And who do you think is, setting the stage to be the future of golf out of the pack that we have, especially with the split that there is right now?
Yeah, from a historical standpoint, I was always a Watson guy. I was kind of at the back end of Nicklaus. I mean, I was into golf, obviously. I was into golf starting kind of around that, early 80s, mid 80s. So I remember Jack winning at Augusta, but I was a Tom Watson guy. I think our connections with Kansas City and him being from the Midwest, I was a big Watson fan. So his 5 victories, I remember almost every one of them as a kid. And so, and then obviously the historic stuff, Tiger, completing his slam in 2000. And obviously my connection with Zach winning in 15 at St. Andrews is obviously the closest thing and the most memorable for me and the most emotional for me. So, but, I think of where the golf is headed. I think Rory is the guy who's going to take it for the next 10 to 15 years. And I think he's a guy who he won't get to Tiger's level, but I think because he is from Ireland and he lives in the United States and he's so articulate and he's so highly respected that he's going to be the one that's going to be kind of driving it, at least for the PGA Tour. As far as the young talent, there's just so many, and there's going to be. You'd never could put anybody in the same category as Tiger Woods because he truly changed it. But I follow junior golf still because I have some players my kids play, and so I see the highest level of junior golf throughout the world. And to be honest with you, the amount of talent that's coming forward in the game of golf and is there now. I mean, we're seeing it with the Cameron Youngs and the Taylor Gooches and the Victor Hovlands and the Zalatoris's and the guys who are, quite honestly, even Cantlay and Thigala and those guys that are, in their early 20s or mid 20s, are only going to be followed by the next generation of golfers. There'll be 10 or 15 household names that are 12 to 18 years old right now that we don't really know about, or that the golf world doesn't know about, but they soon will. And the amount of athleticism and talent that's coming is quite honestly unbelievable. And one of the reasons why I think, there's a lot of problems with what's going on with LIV and where that money's coming from and how they're pushing back against the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. But I do believe that there's space, and I do believe that the game of golf has gotten so popular that my hope is that they can stop kind of some of the childish stuff and come to terms where, it could be something that grows the game. I think the way it's being handled right now, I don't believe that it's, in the best interest of the overall game of golf, and that it is somewhat of just a money grab, but hopefully calmer heads will prevail, and the smart people that are the golf game is surrounded by can come to a conclusion that betters the game of golf worldwide and allows some of these great players that are coming an opportunity to showcase their abilities.
Chris Elgert with us, PGA Insider. Chris, awesome to get caught up, man. Thanks for your insight and expertise today, bud.
You bet, man. Good to hear from you.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Chris Elgert, PGA Insider, talking Tiger, the PGA, and the future of golf. Last segment, Kelly Stouffer, ESPN college football analyst, also kicked off this hour. Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, wearing that Pride of Fairbury T-shirt. The Fighting Jeffs, Will Wilson in studio, Chris Schmidt. Don't forget, tomorrow we are out at Woodland Hills, the Tee-Off for Treasures golf tournament benefiting and fundraising to fight pediatric brain cancer. Jeremiah Searles, a proud board member with Tyson's Treasure Chest. So we'll be live 7 to 9 tomorrow morning before it gets too wicked hot. And always a great time out there at Woodland, and a chance to spread the word and help the fight against pediatric brain cancer. Numbers to get in here, open phones till 6, 466-3776 or 800-825-5865. We're streaming live. StreamYard helps us connect west to the Rockies with the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman. ESPN Lincoln's Facebook and Twitter feed up, and you can see our smiling faces. Bill, pretty good sit-down with a friend of ours, Mitch Sherman, as he caught up with Trev Alberts when it comes to NIL, Frosty's metrics, conference realignment, and pretty, as Trev is, pretty cut and dry, straight shot with expectations. And Nebraska and year 5, I know we're 44 days away from kickoff, but the importance of Northwestern and the right foot part of this 2022 season continues to grow and grow and grow. But really good sit down and interview by Mitch with Trev.
What's great about Trev, and when he got hired, a year ago yesterday, I think was when he was introduced. Look, I've known Trev since he was a player, and I thought it was a great hire, and I'm even more stronger in my convictions about that after watching him a little bit afar, but also reading very closely what's been going on in Nebraska. And look, he's a contemporary guy. He is a generational athletic director. He's in his early 50s, but he gets what's going on with the student athletes. He understands what's going on with the culture of collegiate sports. He understands the media, having been a rising television star before he got into becoming an administrator. So he's a very savvy, understanding, wise guy, surrounds himself with the very smart people that he learns from. And I think he has handled himself extremely well. Has he had some hiccups along the way? Sure, but nothing that has been glaring that has, taken the truck off the road. And he's been open. He's done a lot of these sit-down Q&As with, Tom Chattel or Mitch Sherman or whomever it might be, and answered some questions. Does he answer them with media savvy? Absolutely. Does he write transparency sometimes in pencil? Sure. But that's because he understands it. He knows what he can and cannot say, what he should say, and as much as he can say. Everybody's going to ask an athletic director, who's next in the Big Ten? And, was it Gary Barta that was talking about Notre Dame the other day? But, Trev knows I can't do that. But I can say how this is going to affect Nebraska. We are in the competitive business, and this is what our mission is. And I understand Nebraska and what it is. It's not as though Nebraska hired some guy that had no clue what he was doing, that may have been at, say, I don't know, Wisconsin, Miami, and something like that, and took a year or two before he understood Nebraska and, still decided we don't need to play on Friday afternoons on national television when everybody would be watching. They didn't do that. They got a guy who understood. And when they gave him the keys to the car, he wasn't afraid to put it in the right direction and make some tough decisions. So I respect the job that Trev has done to this point, and he has been as good or better than I expected him to be. And I don't think anybody would be better sitting in that chair than Trev Alberts, given his understanding of the media, the collegiate landscape, and the collegiate athlete. Not everybody in the country can say that about their ADs.
Let's talk metrics, as the quote is mutually agreed upon when it comes to the existence of metrics. I don't know that there's a permanent Sharpie and napkin that has goals / must achieve that were traded on Trev's big mahogany desk. That said,
look, that might have been one of the hiccups. Okay, we don't have metrics on paper. Scott and I have an understanding. Okay, maybe that should have been it. So there's no USA Today,
right.
There's no FOI, all that stuff. They clearly, as two men who understand Nebraska football, have an unspoken or spoken metric as to what it is supposed to be. So they didn't need to hammer something out and say, you got to be 1-0. All right?
Or you're
got to be 1-0.
Or you're swimming home?
Might be. I mean, that's a pretty good understanding, right?
Right. Here's my thought. What does the dreaded 6-6 do to Trev?
I think if that gets you in, the last season of bowl games, okay. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen to bowl games when conference realignment settles down, right? But if Nebraska's in a bowl game, 7-5, look, I'm in the camp. I don't know how Nebraska doesn't get through the first 6 games unbeaten.
So
maybe 5-1.
So you're right at 5-1, 6-0. So you're thinking October 1st will come and go, and no sweat, no stress.
Well, there's going to be stress every week, right? But I mean, I was looking at the schedule. I don't think Nebraska has a road game until like mid-November.
Well, and we're there. We're going to be having whiskey and beer to Purdue.
Right. I mean, okay, you're in Dublin, but then, look, you got to be 1-0. And if one of those directional schools comes into Lincoln and wins, North Dakota or Georgia Southern, I think we all know what the metric is with that too, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Don't lose to G5. That's not been good for previous coaches.
Oklahoma, understandable, I guess, but I think Nebraska can win that game. Why not? It's at home, for Pete's sake.
Well, let's see how things shake out in Ireland.
We know what the metrics are, don't we?
Yes.
Win. You know what they are.
Win and look much better doing it. We'll wind down a Friday next.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Friday, Bill Doleman kind enough to sit in, and Will Wilson in for Elijah Herbal, who's on assignment out in Denver. Chris Schmidt on the road tomorrow at Woodland Hills, Tyson's treasure chest to tee off for treasures, 7 to 9 tomorrow morning ahead of the golf tournament with our dear friend Searles and his crew as they look to fundraise to fight against pediatric brain cancer. So excited to be a part of that. Baseball this weekend for me. Vic from Denver emails in responding, Bill, to your 5-1, 6-0 thought. And it says, look, we should be, this is from Vic, Chris at ALVarsity.com, we should be 5-1, 6-0, but ... chemistry. I'm just glad God invented whiskey. And Vic, I'm glad that when you come to Lincoln, you bring that whiskey, my friend. You share. I love you. I love Vic.
That's all he brings from Denver?
Pardon me?
That's all he brings from Denver?
I'm not picky, nor am I greedy. All right?
So
we sent Elijah with a lot of balloons and an RV.
Yeah, right.
So
we're the Millers.
Yeah. Not that far south, no.
Just remember abstinence. Yes. Bill, what's the weekend look like for you, man? You and Shag's going to go for a few walks. You're going to go check out the Lodo.
Rugby weekend. Big rugby weekend.
Oh,
the United States 15s against Chile, and the winner of the match, I believe, gets a World Cup bid. So it's a really big deal. So it'll be kind of fun to see some of the best rugby players. I love that sport, as you well know by now.
It's option football, yes.
Incredibly interesting. But so, we'll be doing that, and maybe watching a little bit of golf too. And then getting ready to make a road trip to see you guys.
Well, that's awesome. Excited for that. That'll be great. Excited for Billy D's summer adventure travel.
You want me to bring you something?
You know, I got pulled over on my way back from Colorado when we were out in Denver for the Wood Bat baseball tournament. We did not get any medicine for Grandma's knee, thankfully. And Junior's in the back seat going, "Dude, you're roasted. It's a state patrolman with a mustache." And I'm like, that's a great painting, Carson. So no, I didn't. No, I don't have Funyuns laying around my house. I'm good, thank you. But if you are, Purple Haze, please.
There you go. Good choice.
Will's like, yes,
Yeah.
solid. Will, what are you doing? Can I get a beer with you later?
Yeah, I'll be at the bar if you need a beer, so I can give you that. I cannot play in that Tyson's Treasure Chest event. I got last place a couple of years ago, so I'm staying away from that.
I was on Searles' team, and we had a couple of ringers. I don't think we finished first, but we didn't finish last, which was okay. So there you have it. Podcast, be sure to download us. The Hail Varsity Radio Show, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Give us a rating. We love the feedback, good, bad, or ugly. We'll take the critique. And tell your friends about it. And subscribe. As Beluto said, it don't cost nothing. Billy D., we will see you soon, partner. Thanks for making time today.
All right, brother. It's always good to be with you. Will, nice to see you. And tell Waz hello for me.
There we go. Talk to you tomorrow morning.
A Hurrdat Media Production.